Oh wait, getting something now. Yeah. You still hear it? To just go to mics up here. Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3. What about y'all? Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1. Okay, so we got about 3 minutes to mics up here. Mic check 1 2 3. Okay. So
Yep. Mic check 1 2 3. 1 2 3. Spanish? Roll. Hola. Mine didn't. Joey, ready? Everybody's good. All right, we'll go and get started. My name is Josh Bruegger, last name Bruegger. I'm the police chief here in the city of Pasadena. Here today to provide an update on the murder homicide that we had last Saturday of 11-year-old Maria Gonzalez at 1004 Main, apartment number 24. There's obviously been a lot that's happened this past week as we've been working this case. Before I get started, I'd be remiss not to recognize all the investigators and the officers that made the scene. As you can imagine, cases like this, especially involving children, not only is it traumatic for the victim and their family, it can also be hard on the first responders as well. And they have worked their tails off this week to get us to the point that we're at right now. A couple things I just want to touch on. There's been a lot of talk this week about the maintenance folks out there, whether they've been cooperative, not cooperative, suspects, things like that. I just want to clear that up real quick and just say that the maintenance staff out there has been cooperative. At this point, there is no reason to believe that any of them have been involved. And as you all know, we've kind of gone a different direction with a person of interest. As investigators were processing the crime scene last Saturday, one thing they found was a key in the apartment. That key has been crucial in helping us move this case forward. The investigators, after processing the key, found out that the key did not go to the victim's apartment, and so started checking other apartments, and we found that it opened another apartment there in the apartment complex. As the first responders made the scene on Saturday, and the investigators followed them up, and they began interviewing neighbors in the apartment complex, other witnesses, and as part of that was the interview here of the person of interest. And this image that we're releasing today is a still image from our department's body camera system. So that's what he looked like Saturday when investigators contacted him. So that is a recent photo and what he looked like when they contacted him. It's been a struggle this week. You know, any investigation we try to limit what we release to an extent, but also keep the public informed because we want to hold some stuff back for investigative reasons. As it happens every time, you know, beyond our control, information gets released that we don't release, and so that's why I want to try to clear up anything that's out there. The victim was found in a trash bag in a clothes hamper under the bed. We had initially held that back, but that got out outside the organization, and so I just want to confirm that that is accurate. She was. We have turned over quite a bit of evidence to the Institute of Forensic Sciences in Harris County, which processes all the DNA evidence, and so they've got that. I will say we have a DNA sample from our person of interest on Saturday when investigators were out there as part of the investigation, so we do have something to compare to. So at this point, we're waiting on DNA to come back. No arrests have been made. This 18-year-old Juan Carlos Garcia-Rodriguez is a person of interest. He was living there in the apartment complex. He was last seen in the apartment complex at 4 p.m. Monday. His whereabouts are not known. We've been asked several times over the last 24 hours if we had concerns that he was fleeing to Mexico. I don't have any information that he is fleeing to Mexico. He is Guatemalan, so his whereabouts are unknown. That's what we're asking for the public's help. I think there's, you know, a chance somebody knows where he's at, and if they do, we're asking that they reach out to us, either the department or Crime Stoppers, which is offering a reward for information that leads to his arrest. And I'm going to let Andy Kahn, Crime Stoppers, come up here in a few minutes and talk. But our investigators, armed with new information, would like to talk to him again to try to get more information. And that's where we're at right now, and I will take any questions that you might have.
So the key, did it go to the apartment that he was staying in?
Correct, it did. Yes.
What can you tell us about investigators' conversations with him a few days ago?
He didn't have a lot of information, just that, you know, he lived in the complex, was familiar, but nothing really at the time, nothing that, you know, stood out at the time. Investigators went back out there a couple days later to talk to some other people that also live in that apartment. I say evasive with investigators, didn't necessarily pay attention to the investigators when they were out there and they were talking to the other roommates. That's what I can tell you about.
How many other roommates?
There's 2 other roommates.
Are they family members, or who was he living with?
He did not, he'd only been there 3 or 4 weeks. Try to keep it, you know, easy for you. They're all from Guatemala, and so it was a connection of, hey, I got a friend that needs somewhere to stay. And so he was living with these folks for 3 to 4 weeks. They didn't really know him that well because, again, it was somebody asking if he could stay with them. And so, you know, they worked during the daytime, kind of went their own ways and did their own thing.
You guys have a DNA sample of him?
We do.
Did he have any kind of vehicle, or?
Not to our knowledge, he doesn't. At this point, everything we know, he's been picked up and taken places by people, so somebody knows where he's at.
Did he say that he knew the victim? Did he admit in any way?
I don't want to talk about that right now.
We don't know if they crossed paths or anything like that?
They lived in the same area, is all I'm going to say. The apartments are pretty close to each other, so he could have seen her if they were, if she was outside at the same time he was outside, because they're that close to each other.
In terms of timeline, whenever you guys got that key and figured out it went to the apartment he was staying at, can you give me a timeline of when that happened compared to when you guys spoke to him?
It was after he had already left on Monday.
When the DNA sample was taken, was he a person of interest then?
He wasn't. So as the investigation goes on, oftentimes the investigators will, if people are, voluntarily, give it to, especially people that are in the area, because one of the things that's important is, that we be able to eliminate people just as, somebody's DNA where it shouldn't be. So it's important that we were able to exclude people as well.
I'm sorry, can you just clarify on that timeline? When did you figure out the key went to that apartment?
It was after he left on, it's been the last couple days.
Okay, do you know approximately what day? Or-
I don't know, no. I just know it was after he left on Monday.
So he wasn't under any kind of surveillance, you didn't believe he was a person of interest?
At that point, we had a wide net at that point. So at that point, he was not a person of interest, not any more than, not any more than anybody else that lives in the complex.
Given that he's been, he could have moved the last few days, is his picture now out with other law enforcement agencies that you guys?
And we've also, if he were to cross the border, we've asked to be notified as well, so.
Was this DNA found on the key?
They have not processed that yet.
But, and I have to ask about
Uh-huh.
the key. When you found the key, how long did it take you to go try it out?
It was a couple days later, just as part of processing the evidence. I can't tell you exactly when, but as part of processing the evidence, I'm not sure exactly when that was done.
Would that mean that every single door was tested or just a particular section?
We didn't have to get very far, I'll just say that.
What kind of a criminal history does he have?
As far as we know in the United States, he does not have a criminal history.
You would consider him dangerous?
Absolutely.
How long has he been in the U.S. for, and where else has he lived?
He's from Guatemala. I know that Customs and Border Protection encountered him back in January out in the El Paso area. Is the last that I know of. I don't know of any other contacts that they might have had with him, but that's the last one that I know of.
Did he come straight to Texas? Do you know?
I don't know his route here. I just know that back in January he was apprehended by CBP.
You know the father, them and the father of the...
No, they don't. To my knowledge, they do not know each other.
Describe him, excuse me, you describe him as dangerous, but he's described also as a person of interest at this point, not a suspect.
Right.
What's keeping you from using that other word?
A little bit more evidence. I can tell you, we're pretty close, but not quite there yet. Because if he was a suspect, we'd be at the DA's office getting a warrant. So.
Why is he considered a person of interest based on the evidence that you guys have?
Without going into too much of the evidence, the key is really one of the key pieces, plus some of the other witness statements that we have as far as his location and his whereabouts. The other two roommates still have their keys. They tried to get the key back from him when he left, and he said, no, I'm going to hang on to it. He didn't have the key. There was the key to that apartment and the victim's apartment.
So he told his roommates he was leaving town?
My understanding, he just said, I'm leaving, going to do work somewhere else.
As a person of interest, can he be arrested?
He cannot, for this offense, he cannot be arrested because there's no warrant for him. But we really want to talk to him.
So you're waiting for the DNA
That's correct.
to come back?
Potentially or other evidence. I mean, there's still witnesses we're working through talking to we're obviously trying to move as fast as we can, but also there's a legal process that we got to follow, and so we may get there, may get to a probable cause level before DNA. It's just going to depend on tracking down some more witnesses and trying to confirm some more information.
So you waited a couple days to go public with this. The day that you did was the day after he skipped town. Was that sort of the catalyst?
No, the catalyst was, her autopsy wasn't done until Monday. And so, once we had that information to know more of what happened, and to be able to be informed when I come, give information, that's why we released it on Tuesday.
So he was one of how many people that were interviewed on Saturday?
There's a bunch. You got family members, you've got, family members, you got other neighbors, and so, there's at least 10 people that were interviewed as part of it.
But the DNA samples were taken an approximate amount of people?
I don't know the number. I don't know. To my knowledge, everybody that we've talked to so far has been cooperative, so I'm going to say somewhere in that, yes.
His roommates have been cooperating?
His roommates have been very cooperative, yes.
Is he here legally in the United States?
I believe he is not here legally.
And he might have been here 3 to 4 months in Houston, not in the United States, am I right?
My understanding is he was in Pasadena for about 3 to 4 weeks
Okay.
before he left on this week. Before that, he was in Louisiana. My understanding, when he was released by immigration, he was released to some sponsors in Louisiana, and when he was there, they're the ones who reached out to some connection that they had here about him coming here for work and needing a place to stay.
The El Paso encounter, do you know when that happened?
January, I don't know the exact date, but in January sometime.
You mentioned work, what does he do?
Day labor, a variety of different things.
Where in Louisiana?
Baton Rouge area?
Have you guys made contact with the sponsors?
We have not yet, no.
Provide his age earlier, did you say 18?
He is 18 years old, that's correct.
We spoke to the mother today, Maria's mother,
Mhm.
in Guatemala, and she obviously was very distraught and asked her what her message to the public here was, and she was begging everyone in law enforcement from Pasadena to upper
Mhm.
federal government agencies
Right.
to do everything they can to find whoever did this. What would be your message to her?
My message is we're doing everything we absolutely can to bring whoever this is to justice, to answer for this. This is a horrific crime. We're leaving no stone unturned. The men and women in the back have been working tirelessly all week because this case is important to us.
So how many days more to get the results of DNA?
That's going to depend on the Institute of Forensic Sciences. I don't have an answer for you on that. They know the facts of this case. They know the urgency of this case, but I also know Harris County is a large county with, a lot of stuff going on, and so, we'll see. But I do know this is a priority for them.
Are you asking any other agencies, U.S. Marshals, anybody to try to see if this guy is already in Mexico like you?
We have reached out to our federal partners. He is flagged with DHS, so we will know if he crosses the border. They will alert us if he crosses.
And if we were to intend to cross, there's nothing to stop them from letting them do so, or?
Depends on, I don't know about federal immigration, because he is in the country illegally, that they could possibly detain him on that, but as far as detaining for this offense, that's correct. At this point, no. And like I said, we're working hard to
But there is a search, that was my question. There is a search for him from other agencies.
yes.
Prior to this time at the apartments, do you know where he stayed?
He was in Baton Rouge, is my understanding, with whoever the sponsors were when he was released from immigration, and then he came from there directly to here, is my understanding.
What part of Guatemala is he from, do you know? Is it from where
I don't know the answer to that. The sense I'll get, I'll tell you just from talking to the investigators in the complex up there, there seems to be a connection. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody from Guatemala, and so they are a tight-knit community.
We don't think he knew that Gonzalez was in that.
To my knowledge, no. I'm going to invite Andy Kahn with Crime Stoppers to come up and.
Thank you. I'm also going to ask April Aguirre, who's been doing incredible work volunteering for us as well. My name's Andy Kahn. I'm the Director of Victim Services for Crime Stoppers of Houston. And first and foremost, on behalf of Crime Stoppers, our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to Maria's family. I've been doing this a long time, over 3 decades, and there's certain cases that do stand out. And anytime a young girl, an 11-year-old girl, is sexually assaulted and then murdered, it kind of brings back a lot of bad memories of other cases as well. Right now, Crime Stoppers is offering an up to a $5,000 reward for any information leading up to the arrest of the suspect responsible for the absolutely cold-blooded, horrific murder of 11-year-old Maria Gonzalez. We are asking the public to step up to the plate and do the right thing. Crime Stoppers is anonymous, and I do want to stress that. Anybody who reaches out and contacts us and provides information leading up to the arrest and identification of the suspect responsible is anonymous. We do not care about your immigration status, your residency. No one is going to ask any questions, nor are they going to know your identification. You can contact us at 713-222-TIPS. You can submit a tip online, www.crime-stoppers.org, and even better, we have a mobile app available in over 20 languages. As a board member of the Houston chapter of Parents of Murdered Children and Surviving Family Members of Homicide, and have been working with homicide survivors now for over 30 years, I can unequivocally tell you that grief is intensified when justice is lacking. And sadly, right now, justice is lacking for Maria and her family. And we know somebody out there knows who committed this incredibly horrific, evil, heinous murder. And it's time for you to clear your conscience and get in touch with us, and you may be eligible for an up to a $5,000 reward. And I'm going to ask April to come up here and do the Spanish version for me.
Buenas tardes. Hoy día estamos aquí unidos por un crimen horrible que pasó aquí en nuestra ciudad. Estamos representando a Crime Stoppers y nosotros encargamos de apoyar a las familias de víctimas y aquí estaremos. Si ustedes tienen miedo de llamar a la policía, llamen a Crime Stoppers. Nosotros ni a la policía nos importa su estatus migratorio. No tengan miedo. Llámenos. Por más pequeño que sea el detalle, esta persona, por causas legales, ahorita no es un sospechoso, pero es una persona de interés. Le estamos rogando y suplicando al público que por favor, si algo saben, por más pequeño que sea, llámenos 713-222-TIPS. Nuestros corazones y nuestras mentes están con la familia de González. Es importante que también el público sepa que el señor, el papá, no es sospechoso. Es tiempo que nuestra comunidad se una y lo apoye. Hoy a las 7 de la tarde vamos a unirnos en los apartamentos donde pasó y vamos a orar por su hija y enseñarle apoyo. También vamos a estar pasando esta información a todas las personas que viven ahí. Por si alguien no quiere hablar con nosotros por miedo, por favor llamen el número y toda la información está en inglés y en español. Muchas gracias, espero verlos hoy a las 7. Un mensaje de la familia. Estamos muy agradecidos con Pasadena Police, los investigadores y también con Crime Stoppers. Aunque la familia está aquí en el edificio, no están preparados para hablar, porque es bien difícil lo que ellos están procesando. Les agradecemos a todos los miembros de la comunidad y la media. Gracias por apoyarnos. I will give a message from the family in English now. We are very thankful to Pasadena Police Department, all of the investigators and everybody that has put in work, including Crime Stoppers. We are grateful that everybody has cooperated to find us justice. Today at 7 p.m., we're going to be having a vigil at the apartment complex where this happened at 1004 Main Street, Pasadena, Texas, 77506. We are grateful for the community, and unfortunately, we do not have the strength to be up here and speak today, so I'm speaking on their behalf. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
I have one, and sorry I was late, I was listening to him, but for either of you guys, do you know, I know that this person of interest crossed illegally into the U.S. Around January. He was due for some sort of court date at some point, but he was given a sponsor, I believe, that lives in Louisiana. Do you know what kind of criminal background check was given by the federal government on this person of interest when he got into the U.S.?
I don't know the answer to that. You'd have to ask probably Customs and Border Protection on that.
Does he have a criminal history in Guatemala?
Not that I know of yet, but getting information from the Guatemalan government has been a little bit of a challenge that we've been trying to work through.
Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Raúl Granados, sargento del Departamento de Policía de Pasadena. Hoy en este día, primero que nada, nos unimos en el dolor de la familia González y de todos aquellos que han sido afectados por esta tragedia. Esto no es nada fácil para una comunidad. El hecho de que una niña de 11 años haya sido brutalmente agredida y que haya perdido la vida es bastante difícil. Queremos reconocer que nuestro Departamento de Policía ha estado trabajando arduamente para tratar de encontrar a las personas responsables, a la persona o personas responsables de este acto. Nuestros investigadores, incluyendo nuestra unidad de escena del crimen, han estado trabajando las 24 horas para tratar de encontrar un perfil de un sospechoso o una sospechosa. El día de ahora vamos a hacer un resumen acerca de las investigaciones que se han llevado a cabo. Y también, como ven ustedes, está aquí a mi lado, y como se los incluimos a ustedes, la foto de una persona de interés. Llegaremos a eso en un segundo. También estamos tratando de equilibrar y mantener informado a nuestro público y al mismo tiempo proteger la integridad de la investigación. Se nos hicieron preguntas acerca de por qué había habido información que no se había divulgado al público al principio, en la primera conferencia de prensa. Esa es una táctica usada por los detectives para poder corroborar el incidente ya cuando llegamos a tener un sospechoso, para saber qué es lo que saben, o ya cuando hagamos una entrevista con ellos que nos puedan decir, y así corroborar la evidencia con el testimonio, también de los testigos. Se nos preguntó que cómo habíamos encontrado a la joven. Dijimos que abajo de la cama. Eso es verdadero. No dijimos que ella se había encontrado en una bolsa y que también estaba en un canasto de ropa. Primero que nada, eso es bastante gráfico y decidimos guardarlo hasta que tuviéramos que usarlo. Desafortunadamente, en este caso, ha habido mucha información que se ha circulado. La familia ha hablado con los medios y ellos tienen todo su derecho de hablar con los medios de comunicación, pero eso también nos afecta un poco en nuestra investigación, ¿verdad? Entonces, esa información preferimos guardarla hasta que ya salió, ¿verdad? Y ahora que ya salió, vamos a decir, sí, efectivamente, ella se encontró en una bolsa, abajo de la cama, en un canasto de ropa. También se nos preguntó que si se había encontrado una llave adentro del apartamento y que a dónde iba esta llave. Sí encontramos una llave, esa llave fue procesada, nos dimos cuenta que esta llave no abre el apartamento de la víctima, y entonces el siguiente proceso fue tratar de buscar a qué apartamento iba esta llave. Nos dimos cuenta a qué apartamento iba, obviamente. Eso ha sido instrumental en traer aquí ahora a la persona que es nuestra persona de interés, ¿verdad? Eso más la evidencia. La foto esta fue obtenida por la cámara de video de uno de los oficiales mientras se le hacía una entrevista preliminar adentro del apartamento. Esta entrevista y el hecho de que encontramos esa llave nos da lo suficiente para llamarlo persona de interés, pero no lo suficiente para tener causa probable para un arresto de él. Lo que queremos es hablar con él una vez más y así tratar de corroborar la historia que él nos dio con la evidencia y llegar a la causa probable para hacer un arresto y hacer un cargo ante la Fiscalía. Podemos también decir que ha habido preguntas acerca de las personas de mantenimiento que trabajan en los apartamentos, que si ellos pudieron haber estado involucrados. Hasta este momento no tenemos evidencia directa diciendo que ellos han sido involucrados, y aparte de eso, ellos han cooperado con la investigación al 100%, viniendo aquí voluntariamente a darnos su versión del incidente y dándonos la más información que ellos nos han podido dar. Y así hasta ahorita los estamos eliminando, pero entendiendo que también puede haber más de un sospechoso. O sea, sé que vamos a seguir trabajando, vamos a voltear todas las piedras para llegar al fondo de esto y sabiendo que puede haber más de una persona involucrada. Y nuestro propósito es de traer a todas las personas que fueron involucradas y que tuvieron algo que ver con el asesinato de esta joven. Como se dice, no se ha realizado un arresto en este momento, sin embargo, se ha identificado a la persona Juan Carlos Garcia-Rodriguez, de 18 años. A los 17 años de edad, en enero, él pasó y fue detenido en El Paso, Texas. Después de haber sido detenido en El Paso, Texas, él fue puesto en libertad condicional y se fue entregado a una familia para que él después fuera a corte y siguiera su proceso legal en este país. Esa familia vive en Luisiana. Parte de nuestra investigación va a ser contactarlos a ellos también y a ver si podemos dar con él para hacer esa entrevista. No tenemos evidencia de que él haya cometido otro crimen aquí, pero también ha estado aquí poco tiempo. Entonces, nuestros investigadores van a estar en contacto con este gobierno de Guatemala. Esperemos tengamos información acerca de si ha sido arrestado o si tiene algún récord criminal en su país, pero eso puede ser un proceso largo también. Y les pedimos paciencia, por favor. Estamos también pidiéndole a todo al público que si tienen información, que vengan adelante. Como lo dijo Abril, como lo dijo nuestro jefe de policía, nadie de aquí se le va a hacer preguntas acerca de su estado migratorio. No nos importa. Queremos encontrar a la persona responsable, así es que no teman al llamar a la policía de Pasadena para decirnos y darnos información acerca de esta persona de interés o si vieron o supieron de algo que sucedió. Muchas veces nuestra gente emigrante desafortunadamente pueda tener una desconfianza. Nosotros les hemos proveído números de teléfonos donde pueden contactar a detectives que hablan español para que se sientan más cómodos, el detective Mata y el detective Quintanilla, que se encuentran aquí con nosotros, y también por las redes sociales, por Instagram y Facebook se pueden contactar conmigo. Yo soy el sargento Granados, una vez más. Crime Stoppers, como dijo, vinieron aquí, están siendo parte de la ayuda a buscarlo. Como dijimos, no es aún sospechoso, pero si dan información y esa información nos lleva a la persona responsable y esa persona responsable es traída ante un tribunal y encontrada culpable, se pueden dar una recompensa de hasta $5,000. Ahora en este momento, si alguien tiene una pregunta, adelante.
Queríamos saber, que nos decía en español, ¿cuántas personas aproximadamente, sin decirnos un número exacto, fueron entrevistadas y cooperaron con la investigación?
Como dijo nuestro jefe de policía, fueron alrededor de como 10 personas con las cuales hablamos. Todas las personas con las que hablamos, incluyendo a esta persona de interés, nos dieron una muestra de ADN y esa muestra de ADN está en el Instituto de Ciencias Forensicas del Condado de Harris y estamos esperando los resultados.
¿Qué fue lo que les dijo él durante la entrevista que tuvieron?
No tengo una copia de la entrevista aquí enfrente de mí.
¿Tienen más evidencia aparte de una llave?
Sí, hay evidencia digital, hay evidencia de ADN que se está procesando, o sea que sí hay bastante evidencia física, pero esta evidencia es traída aquí, es procesada, después de aquí es mandado al instituto, entonces todo ese proceso es un poquito más largo, también de huellas digitales, todo eso se está procesando en estos minutos.
¿Nos puede hablar sobre el momento cuando ustedes identifican que la llave es la del departamento de él? ¿Fue puerta por puerta o ya había causa para creer que podría ser ese departamento?
Con la información que teníamos acerca de este joven y al hablar con las personas que han vivido en ese apartamento y que vivían con él, fuimos a calar la llave allí e inmediatamente nos dimos cuenta que allí funcionaba. Entonces, por eso pudimos descartar que fuera de otro apartamento y así sabiendo que las otras dos personas que vienen en el apartamento todavía traían su llave y él no traía la llave porque obviamente no, después de que habló con nosotros se dio la fuga. Eso nos dio razón para ahora estar aquí y presentándolo a él como persona de interés.
¿Es que nunca lo pudieron confrontar para saber si la llave o por qué la llave estaba?
Exactamente, él se dio a la fuga después y en ese momento eran investigaciones preliminares, donde se le hacen preguntas básicas, ¿verdad? Queremos saber dónde estabas, qué estabas haciendo y qué vistes. Nos das una prueba de tu ADN y al adquirir eso, como cualquier otra persona, no teníamos nada más para detenerlo, a él y a nadie más, y entonces así tuvimos que regresar a la estación a procesar más evidencia.
¿Por qué es considerado una persona de interés y no se le llama un sospechoso?
Sospechoso. La diferencia es causa probable. Tenemos que tener cierta evidencia que nos diga que llegue hasta a un límite donde diga la fiscalía ya tienes suficiente para una orden de arresto. Ahorita no estamos ahí, pero estamos cerca. Entonces, por eso es persona de interés.
Y extendiendo la pregunta de mi compañera, que ustedes dicen que probaron la llave, ¿no? Pero a lo mejor yo entiendo, no sé, ¿fue el tercer apartamento que probaron, el cuarto, el quinto? ¿Cuál fue el que, cuando ustedes van y dan la vuelta de la llave?
Que yo sepa, fueron al apartamento de las personas que estaban cooperando y donde calaron la llave y ya no, ahí funcionó y ahí paramos para procesar la llave y comienza la investigación.
Y para las personas que no saben, quizás nos están escuchando, incluso a la madre de María, que dicen que se tarda, ¿por qué se está tardando tanto esta prueba?
La prueba del ADN se tiene que procesar por el Departamento de Policía, ¿verdad? Después es paquetada por medio de nuestros detectives de escena del crimen, es empaquetada y después enviada al Instituto de Ciencias Forensicas. Entonces ellos tienen que abrir los paquetes, tienen que procesarlos y después tienen que hacer una comparación de análisis del ADN con las que ya le proveímos de personas que tuvieron acceso a la víctima, a los apartamentos, que tocaron, digamos, la canasta de la ropa, todo eso. Entonces tienen que hacer una comparación. Y entendiendo que el condado de Harris es el cuarto condado más grande del país y hay muchos crímenes más, el tercero o cuarto, entonces, sabiendo que eso es prioridad, como quiera que sea, estamos hablando de una multitud de casos que existen aún que se están procesando. Entonces se tarda un poquito, pero ellos saben de la urgencia que tenemos para llegar a esa causa probable y poder tener, ya sea contra de él o de alguien más, una orden de arresto para su aprehensión. ¿Alguien más? Okay, that'll conclude the press conference today. We want to thank everybody for being out here. And like I said, the family wishes to have a little bit of privacy at this time. So thank you very much.